Tencent, the Chinese mega corporation, threatens legal proceedings against the U.S. Department of Defense after it was labeled a Chinese military company. Now, this is fun. This is very fun because the labeling of it as a Chinese military company essentially does nothing. Unless it actually is a Chinese military company and it is purposefully trying to advance the CCP's agenda and power. Because here's the whole point of this. The only thing that will happen to Tencent by being labeled a Chinese military company is people in the Department of Defense will not be able to engage in business dealings with it. Yeah, that's it. That's literally it. Inclusion in the CMC list will not prohibit any persons other than the Department of Defense from business dealings with the company, including transacting in the securities of the company. That's interesting. So, actually, the only thing this would affect would be Department of Defense, I'm assuming employees, from engaging business dealings with Tencent, which is a Chinese company, and therefore it is just inherently going to be a CCP involved company. The CCP has, people in the company that will decide to some degree the direction of that company and how it can benefit the Chinese government. And the only reason to be butthurt about it being included in this CMC list, the Chinese military company list, is if you are actually actively trying to get data on Department of Defense people. Now, we know that China and Chinese companies will routinely, all the time, TikTok included, TikTok ban coming in a week, grab data from everyone. They do wide collection. This basically grabs as much data as they possibly can from as many people as they possibly can, and then they sort through it to find data that is applicable to the aims of the CCP. This super wide collection is essentially spying with a super just wide lens. It's not as targeted, and therefore it isn't really seen as intrusive, because they're just passively collecting enormous amounts of data and then sorting through it to find exploitable information. So the only reason to be butthurt over not being able to do it with DoD employees, or perhaps the DoD in general, is if that is a main goal of the company, is to go, hey, look, you know what, we're going to buy up a whole bunch of game companies. We're going to make it so that we've got, at any point in time, one of the most played, popular games, and therefore we know we're going to have some DoD employees who are playing this game, and we can grab their data passively along with everybody else's, and therefore we can collect DoD data. We get to spy on the Department of Defense while making money from having a popular game. Two birds, one stone. Delightful, dead birds. Now they're going to try to sue for this. They're going to try to sue to get kicked off this list. Initially, they're going to, initiate a reconsideration process. They're not going to win that, I don't think. I mean, maybe they will, because they've certainly got people in government. They've definitely got lobbyists and these types of things, and maybe they can just easily, get off this list. But my guess is if they were put on it initially with Trump incoming, he's going to be harder on China to some degree, and therefore they're probably not going to get off of this, through normal processes. They're going to have to sue. Now, are they going to win that suit? Probably not, because to be perfectly honest, they are a branch of, the Chinese government. The Chinese government includes the Chinese military. Maybe there's some, legal leeway to be had in definitions. But certainly it would be fair to say that, yeah, look, hey, if you're going to be collecting data off of this service, a game, a whatever, you are a piece of the Chinese intelligence agency. You are a tool in the Chinese intelligence agency. The Chinese intelligence agency is a Chinese military asset, and therefore you are a Chinese military company. Now, the thing is basically you could essentially put this label on just about every Chinese company, because almost every Chinese company, if not every Chinese company, is at the very least a outlet for the CCP, because that's the government that they've elected. That's the government, not elected, but that's the government that they have. They have a state-controlled corporate structure. Like everything in China, to some degree, goes through the Chinese government. The Chinese government is the ultimate arbiter of most things, and therefore, from Huawei to Tencent to Alibaba, all these types of things, they all have some elements of the CCP involved in high-level decision-making, or even on-the-ground decision-making. So should they be termed a Chinese military company? Yeah, that makes sense. If that makes sense, then why would you be concerned that you are being called out for what you are? The only reason is, well, there's two. First would be optics. You just don't like the label. You think it might hurt your business. Okay, but apparently no one would care, because I don't read the CMC list, U.S. government sanctions and lists and these types of things. I don't in any way, shape, or form look at that stuff. No one does. So it's not really going to hurt your bottom line if it doesn't prohibit you from doing any kind of business with that company. So the only reason to be mad about this, to put out a statement, and to actually go forward with legal proceedings is if a large intention of your company is to do work for the Chinese military and to do some sort of, spy work with the Department of Defense. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Please let me know in the comments. Good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you for your time and attention, and I shall say farewell for now.